Good evening and welcome to another episode of HOD Live. We are here live in the HOD Live studio. Today is Friday, January the 17th, and it is 7 p.m. here in the Midwest, and we are at our wonderful HOD bunker, hidden deep in the recesses of House of Deliverance Church. I have my two very lovely, extraordinary, capable, and kind co-hosts, the illustrious, amen, the illustrious Courtney Johnson, amen, and the marvelous Marie B. Battle, formerly Marie B. Edwards of Philadelphia, of the Philadelphia Edwardses, and your humble co-host, Pastor Eric F. Battle. Welcome to HOD Live. This is a wonderful, exciting show we have for you all tonight. Varied topics, wonderful topics that will most certainly float your boats and give you something to talk about, right? So, co-host, what's been going on? What's new? Give me some good news. It was 50 degrees today. Did you enjoy the
I did not
thaw
enjoy
out?
it.
You did not enjoy the thaw out?
No,
What's
I like
wrong with you?
cold weather.
Well,
And
moving on, First Lady. Now that we've heard from the mental patient, the only person in St. Louis that did not enjoy the warm up. First Lady, how did you enjoy the warm?
I am enjoying the warm up. I wish it would stay like this for a while, but it's
Right.
going to get cold again.
It's going to
over
get
the
very
weekend.
cold this week, down to 7 and 2.
It's winter.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's
It is
what we-
winter.
I like cold weather.
So
I
anything-
didn't want all the ice and stuff, but
You
I like cold weather.
huh?
Yes.
Snow bunny.
Okay.
Right. So anything extraordinary happened that we should know about that you want to share with us before we jump into these wonderful discussion topics we have?
Nothing extraordinary.
Nothing extraordinary.
Nothing extraordinary.
No. I'm just excited to be here.
Excited to be here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything pressing other than it's been a good week. It's been a good week of reflection. The consecration month. That's
Yes.
my. See, I'm the
Very
only.
I wanted to-
Sanctified, I guess.
I do have
among
Consecration, right? Consecration month has been wonderful. The fasting
Yes,
schedule
it
has
really
been
has
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Self-purging, growth in Holy Spirit has
Absolutely.
been great. I am enjoying Consecration Month 2025. I'm glad that we're doing it. My Bible reading has been absolutely spectacular.
It really has.
Seeing Jesus
Yes.
put them Pharisees in a headlock has been inspiring, right? I've been going around the house laughing at different things. What are you laughing at? What you laughing at? And it's just crazy things that
in the Bible.
people come to Jesus. One guy came to Jesus and said, Master, my brother got inheritance and he won't split it with me, in so many words. Then they were talking about John the Baptist, and he said, whose baptism was John? Pharisee says, well, if we said man, they'll stone us. So it's been very good.
Yes.
Now I got breaking news, House of Deliverance. Breaking news. And you all who are on the HOD Live podcast, you're going to hear it before anyone else. On Friday, January 31st, we will celebrate communion here at the House of Deliverance Church. And what I'm going to ask that those who are willing and able, touch your neighbor and say willing and able.
Willing and able.
We're going to we're going to start our fast in anticipation of communion on Thursday night at 9 p.m. and in the fast Friday at 9 p.m. So we're going to end Consecration Month with a 24-hour fast that will take us start on Thursday night, take us all night Thursday, which will be the easiest portion of that fast because you all will be sleeping.
Right.
You'll wake up, continue the fast, come to service. We'll have fast. We'll fast through communion. We'll have light refreshments after. Type like be like Rachel. Type willing and able if you're going to do this in the comments, and don't leave Rachel by herself. Tatiana, I see you. I'm expecting that keyboard to light up any second now. But that's how we're going to have a 24-hour fasting period for the end of Consecration Month. All right. So if there are any strongholds left in you, anything hiding behind the corner, we're going to purge all that stuff out, and by February, we are going to be strong, and the
Amen.
devil is going to be on the run, and we're going to really be able to walk in power. So the fast will begin the last day of consecration month, last day of this month, fasting 9 p.m. Thursday to 9 p.m. Friday, which is the 31st of January, and communion that night. All right?
Amen. Now,
So you
this
all
does
ready
not
for the
change
24-hour
anything
fast?
el- Yeah.
No, I'm glad you said. So we're
Yes.
still fasting that week, Monday,
Right.
Tuesday, and Wednesday. Just that the last day of the fasting schedule, we're going to do that 24-hour fast.
No, because we
from
don't fast on
Thursday.
Thursday generally, so that's
No,
not
no.
the last day of that fast.
It's the last day. It starts Thursday, goes to Friday. This is the last
Right,
day.
okay. I got
See,
you.
First Lady, the last day is
I see
that
what you're saying.
Friday.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to start on that Thursday and go into that Friday.
Yes, sir.
So I need you to get your minds ready for this 24-hour fast. Have you ever done 24-hour fast before?
No, not that I
It
can
shows.
recall.
No, I'm just playing first. First thing, don't walk off. Come back first. I am messing
were
with
just
you.
talking about
I'm
how
messing with you. I
wonderful
apologize. I apologize. You know it was a setup. Have you ever done 24-hour fast before?
Not that I can recall.
Have you ever done a 24-hour fast before?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the longest I fasted, remember when I first took over the church, it was like 40 days and 40 nights. I went to the wilderness and fast.
Oh, by yourself. I'm like, you didn't invite the church.
Rita's looking so earnestly at me like, wow, look at the past. I think I fasted for maybe 48 hours. But a 24-hour fast, it's something that you certainly feel it in your body weakened, but I think
It's
anyone
doable.
can
I
do
mean,
it, right?
it's reasonable,
Right.
yeah.
You know, and it's reasonable.
Yeah.
It's reasonable. So
You have
that's
all day Thursday to, you what?
you better get full. Don't get cute with your food on Thursday.
You got all day Thursday
Right.
to build up your store.
Right. All right. So we're going to get involved in our broadcast for tonight. A couple interesting local stories that you may or may not have heard of. I'm going to get your take on the first local story. It comes out of the St. Louis mayor's office. City attorney says St. Louis personnel director used city car to spy on her husband. She denies it. Okay. And unfortunately, there's a pastor hidden somewhere in this news story, as there always is, it seems nowadays, involved in these scandalous news stories. The St. Louis City Service Commission hearing on firing personnel director Sonia Jenkins Gray is scheduled to enter a third day on Thursday. Here's a young lady in question, not Tashara Jones, who is on your right, but Miss Jenkins, who is on your left. All right. A hearing to determine whether the St. Louis Civil Service Commission will fire personnel director Sonia Jenkins Gray continued Wednesday with a lawyer representing the city alleging Jenkins Gray used a city vehicle to find out if her husband was having an affair. Jenkins Gray vehemently denied the allegation. Let me be very clear about this, and I have stated this before. The reason, this is her speaking, the reason that I went to Jefferson City had nothing to do with trying to catch my husband cheating, Jenkins Gray said. Her lawyer, Ron Norwood, described the questioning as a character assassination. That's part of an effort by Mayor Tashara Jones to remove her from office for political reasons. She and her lawyers had always maintained this is what happened, and Jenkins Gray traveled to Jefferson City to retrieve personal documents from the car of her husband, the Reverend Darrell Gray. She said that her husband and his ex-wife, who lives in Kansas City, met in Jefferson City to sign legal papers concerning their sons. Darrell Gray, a prominent justice advocate and chair of the city's jail oversight board, who has been at odds with the mayor, attended the hearing. Afterward, he accused the mayor's office of retaliating against him and his family. So, without going into the further story, just to recap, what happened is the personnel director for City St. Louis, apparently her husband was in Jefferson City with his ex-wife to sign papers, legal papers for the son. That's what that's what Reverend Darrell Gray is saying. Well, at one point, this lady, personnel director, took a city vehicle to Jefferson City City is alleging she took this to spy on her husband to catch him red-handed in the very act, as the Bible says. And she's saying, no, I did not go up there to spy on my husband. I just went up there to get some papers. I left some receipts, some coupons, some out of the car,
In his car.
out of his car. So that's what they're saying. Now, I have several, and of course they're saying this is a political hit job, character assassination. I think it's two things I have to say, and I'm going to turn it over to you wonderful ladies. I think it's terrible that all these people are African American. You know, here we are, have a black mayor, have a African American city personnel director, you know, Reverend Darrell Gray, obviously. It's unfortunate that this kind of stuff, you know, continues to tarnish and plague us at the highest offices, city speaking. You know, the more I see these types of things, the more astounded I am that President Barack Obama was able to get through 8 years without any scandals.
Right.
The second thing, relationship-wise, if you have to spy on your husband and things like that, you know, it's not worth it. And it could be innocent. You know, I just don't. If I had an ex-wife, I don't think I would meet her in Kansas City to sign paperwork. I would have, you know, do some other way because
it all sounds fishy.
don't let your good be spoken of. What do you ladies think?
It sounds suspect. It sounds suspect, and you know, I believe that she was going there to try to catch her husband bright and dirty. And it sounds like he may have been.
You as a woman, do you think that's a good thing to do?
I don't think it is. I mean, I wouldn't spy on anybody. If you have to go through all that, you know.
But let me play devil's advocate for you. If you thought your husband was cheating, wouldn't you want to know? I mean,
I wouldn't go that far if I didn't trust my husband, it's a whole lot of issues going on there if she doesn't trust him. But I'm not going to try to track somebody down and find out. I'm not going to play Inspector Gadget. I'm just not. Can I use a personal situation?
By me?
No.
By me?
With my ex, when that person cheated, I didn't go looking for that. It came to me. You know, the only reason why I went to speak to the person was to get confirmation because I knew he would deny it. You know, but otherwise, I wasn't going around looking and trying to catch somebody doing that.
But respectfully, I would say that.
And why in a company car? She was in the city's vehicle. You know,
she probably
they watch everything you do.
Yeah, that was dumb.
So
but respectfully, though, your situation with your ex, the only difference is you weren't married to him.
Right.
And this poor lady obviously has a lot vested with her husband. So I can see the train of thinking that would lead her to want to go and find out for sure if her husband is cheating, because it's not to say that.
No, because I think what is done in the dark will come to the light, and you just have to be patient and let it. If you have suspicions, you know, there was another way she could have went about doing that.
How?
You know, it would have exposed itself, I believe.
Well, you know, I don't think sometimes people
to drive all the way to Jefferson City.
It's not that far.
It is. That's 2 hours away.
It's worth it.
No,
I mean, I'm not a fan of people having to put their lives on pause or stay ignorant, because I'm sure that she had a feeling that he was cheating. But there's something to be said about knowing definitively whether or not someone was cheating. And I think it's reasonable for her to, you know, show up and see if this is in fact the case, because here's a woman, you know, if he is cheating, and then she needs to move on with her life. And to
chances are it's very unfortunate a lot of times when women find out that their spouses or whoever they're with are cheating, they find out and they don't do anything. They don't leave. When I found out my ex was cheating, that was it. I was done. And we weren't even married. But the number of people that were encouraging me to stay with him was ridiculous. So even when women find out, she found out. Now what is she going to do?
Well, she didn't find out anything. If it was for those pesky kids, the plot was foiled, as Scooby-Doo would say it. But you know, I don't know what she found out or if she didn't. But I don't.
If you find out, if you're going to go through all that and try to find out, if you find out and get your confirmation, the ball is in your court. What are you going to do when you find out? Too many times women find out and they do nothing. They get the information, they want to confront the other woman, you know, and go after the other woman, and they stay with the man a lot of times.
Did you ever listen to that podcast I sent you, Betrayal? I shared it with, I don't know if you listened to it, but it shared a story about this man. It's from Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
Who was married this lady, wonderful, they had a kid, wonderful relationship. Out of the blue one day, she finds out, he confesses that he was cheating on her. She calmly told him, she said, I need you to get a bag. I need you to leave. This marriage is over. It's done with. And from that moment, she stuck to her guns and was over with.
Absolutely.
And I say that to say that there are people who, if they found out their spouse was cheating, would pull the trigger on
There's
that
a lot of
and
them.
say,
Yeah.
I'm done with you.
Right. And that's the position you should take. If you're married, I mean, that is the one instance where
I'm
the
going to say
Bible...
you should take it.
Well, for the most part, you know, to each his own. But for me, that would be my one. And that is the one where we have biblical permission. That is grounds for divorce, biblically speaking.
True, but
So-
it doesn't, it's God still hates divorce. So the God would rather...
He hates adultery, too.
He does, but he hates divorce.
He hates adultery.
But those two are not mutually exclusive. So God does hate divorce, but it doesn't mean that he does not hate divorce. I mean, hate adultery.
Yeah.
So the ideal case would be for a married couple if the ideal case is not to cheat.
Right.
Say that.
Absolutely.
But if cheating would occur, then you have to think about this too. Depending on how long a couple has been married, the marriage is an intertwining of lives. And so it could be the case that to simply divorce, and then there's love, because, you know, just because someone cheated doesn't mean you don't love them, right?
absolutely.
So there's a lot of other factors that would make, but even if she did not ultimately leave her husband, right? You want to find out, because if, let's say she says, okay, if we're going to stay married, then we need to have counseling. We need to do this. We need to do that. All right. What are your thoughts, Courtney?
I have a lot, but what I'll say initially is knowing that this ex-wife lived so close to where he was doing business. I don't know. The article didn't
Now say that again.
Knowing that the ex-wife doesn't live very far from where he's doing business. So he went to Jefferson City and she's in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, it's about equal distance.
Right.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Right from here. Like, I guess Jefferson City will be the meeting point. I would like to think that in that situation, if it's the matter of just signing paperwork, that could be electronically done. You could get your signature and then send it to the other person, and it's done.
Well, this has to be notarized. You know,
Unless
yeah.
it has to be notarized. But I would think of, as when First Lady said, there's other ways to do it. I wouldn't, as a spouse, give my husband reason to think that something is going on. And I think there could be the illusion of that if he wasn't, what I'm saying is, if he wasn't going to Jefferson City for business and the business was to get the paperwork signed, that seems a little like...
It seems fishy. Well, let me ask you this question, Courtney, to kind of weigh in on what me and First Lady were talking about. You know, I think back to the other story we had where that pilot or that lady,
that was...
I forgot his name, but she called the airline seeing when her husband would get home. He had already returned. Another woman sitting with him, and everything unraveled. And after that, the discussion was, how much this woman should continue to turn over rocks to find out how deep the rabbit hole of infidelity goes. And I was of the opinion that, she needs to go ahead and turn over every rock. But do you think it's reasonable for this woman, or would you drive up, or how active would you investigate suspicions about infidelity from your spouse?
Well, it depends on if I'm willing to stay vested in the relationship. If I'm not, then what benefit to me is it to know the full extent of it? If, for example, that lady that found out with her husband, it had been something that was going on for a long time. That's enough right there. I don't need to know how long, how many people, what cities, why, if I've already decided I'm leaving. Now, if I'm deciding I'm staying, then what's the purpose? Am I trying to use it as ammunition for future punishment? Like, it's just.
Well, I think that knowledge is always important, because what happens is, to learn how extensive this cheating was, you can place what you were doing while this was happening, what
That's
stage
true.
relation. So even in terms of being able to understand these past years of your life, have the wisdom to know, either what to do differently, things like that. I think it's good to have a full accounting of the wrong that was done to you, not for the sake of emotional revenge, but you need to know.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think the only real benefit of getting confirmation would be if you're deciding you are going to divorce this person, because that supports your case for divorce. And if you have to take it to court, and if there's assets and all that stuff involved, then it may work in your favor if you could prove this person's infidelity.
Gigi says, if I have to be Inspector Gadget, I don't want him.
I agree with Gigi. That's
But
what I
here's the
said.
thing, though. But what I'm saying is, though, that infidelity is serious.
It
Right.
is.
Which, if someone has cheated on you, that sets a certain ball rolling that's very serious.
Yes.
You have to find out for sure if this was the case, because what's worse than infidelity is the lingering suspicion of infidelity.
Right.
So there are things in life that you need to be able to know or have knowledge of, so then you know how to
I
conduct
think
yourselves
that it will
accordingly.
ultimately be exposed.
But
Like
you
I said,
don't-
I didn't go looking in my past. I did not go looking. It came to me. God exposed it.
Well,
you know.
that's true. But here's the thing, though. You were, how old were you then?
I was grown. But
Okay. So you were a young
was
lady,
grown, but-
walking hard, the streets of Philadelphia, all these different ponytail tight, all these different things, just walking, sashaying back and forth. But this poor lady in this article, she looks like she's lived life. She's reaching the middle or end of her, well, I should say end of her life.
Oh my God.
But she's not a
looks
spring
older. Yeah,
chicken,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
At that point in life, you don't have the time to say, well, if it shows up, it shows up. She has retirement to think
Okay,
about.
But what is she going to do with the information? She's
It's
got
her
it
choice. She
confirmed,
needs to
and now
know
what?
first. She could get a divorce. She could go for counseling. She could, change her assets. There's a lot of things that she
Yeah.
could do to protect herself and her livelihood, but she needs to know whether or not this is
needs proof.
right. And driving to Kansas City, I don't think
That's a
that
bit much, though.
where's Jefferson? I don't think that's too much. If you think someone's cheating on you,
Well,
driving.
now it may cost her her job, right? Because they're
Well,
because
she
was in a
should not have
company
taken the
car.
city's vehicle. That part,
That's
she
private
should have
business.
rented an
Yeah.
enterprise car. So taking the city vehicle, that's beside the point.
Right.
She
Her
should
mistake.
have put that enterprise rental on his credit
Yeah,
card
she should have.
That's what
She should have took an Uber, But
for 2
Well,
hours.
she's a nice looking lady.
She's
I
nice.
thi-
She's
she was
nice.
nice looking.
Yeah,
She's
but,
not-
But to your point, Pastor, of her needing to know the information, would it be her inquiring, or would it be better if he were forthcoming? Because I'm thinking, if it's already adultery, there's a level of deceit already there. So how much
Yeah.
truth would she really find if she had to if she had to dig versus him willingly sharing? Because cat's out of the bag now.
well, but her going to Kansas City or Jefferson City, she could know if.
Well,
I'm
he
sure her
denied it, though,
plan,
right?
huh?
He denied it, right? He said they were just
He's
meeting
saying,
for
but
business.
no. Here's the difference, though. The story, the Post-Dispatch isn't concerned about whether or not he was cheating. He's just concerned. They're concerned about her using
Using
the
the
vehicle.
city,
Right.
yeah.
So it could be the case that she found out. She got her answer,
Oh,
but the
okay.
Post is not the St. Louis World, so
Right.
the Post is not gonna report.
They
And
like,
guess
"Go,
what? He
girl."
was
They
cheating,
like,
right?
"Nah,
That's
why
not
you
the
use
world.
our vehicle?"
So it doesn't mean that she did not come back with a definitive answer as to
Okay.
whether or not he was cheating. But I agree that she needs to find out whether or not she needs to see that. See, I think, and I'm gonna correct me if I'm wrong, First Lady, 'cause I'm gonna make an assumption about your motives, right? I think that a lot of times what people do in these situations. A lot of times you say, well, she doesn't need to find out, blah, blah, is that it's this sense of, I'm not going to stoop that low, or that's beneath me, or, I don't have to chase after nobody and jump out of a bush and stuff like that, which is comes from a place of not wanting to acknowledge that you're out there that bad and you're caught up in this. And as the song says, everybody plays a fool.
Sometimes.
Thank you. Sometimes. Everybody plays a fool. Sometimes. It sounds like what you were telling me from your ex, you played the fool. That's my pastoral opinion.
I did
the fool.
indeed. I did indeed.
Then I look at her come back. I did.
I did
Okay.
indeed.
So, but her wanting to find out whether or not her husband was cheating, I think is personally reasonable, perfectly reasonable. She needs to know, because that's better than her living in question whether or not this person she's with was up in Jefferson City with his ex-wife, supposedly signing papers.
Yeah.
And you just said what's done in light will, or done in
Light.
darkness will come
Comes
in
to
light.
light.
The church family needs to know. She needs to know. This whole thing, they need to know. Listen,
He
what
living foul.
Right.
Right.
If he was living foul,
If he was living
why
foul.
are you in Jefferson
living
City signing papers?
Yeah.
With your ex-wife from KC. What's going on? That's reasonable, ain't it? Now, and I know, First Lady, you talk all this stuff, but I guarantee that little Subaru, that little Subaru, right? That little Subaru would be put.
Where your
That
girls
Subaru,
at?
right? That Subaru would be
We
down in
riding
Jefferson City,
tonight.
Kansas City, Springfield. I know that,
we
that little
riding.
Subaru. And listen, I have to say, listen, if you see a Subaru, let me know. Right? Let me know.
I agree with you, Pastor.
I'm
I
not
believe
doing
she
all
needs
that.
to know.
You ain't doing all that,
but-
First Lady.
Sure.
She does need to know, but I feel that since there's already deceit there, I don't know. And I'm not saying that in this case, but I'm just saying in general, you would need to know, because you're at risk for things. If your husband, or if it's the other way
Right,
around,
sexual
the woman-
diseases.
that's what I'm saying. You need to know, but because there's deception already in there because you're cheating, there's really no telling if I'm going to get, or whoever is going to get, the full truth, the full account, the real deal. You know what I mean? But it's good to know.
It's very good to know.
But how do you know if that's all?
Well, you
because you're
investigate.
already dealing with somebody that's operating in deceit.
But it's a reason why she does not trust him. So what's that reason? They need to be in counseling.
They do, but there's a difference between
Because
mistrust what you
okay,
prove.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
What if he was legitimately in Jefferson City, getting paper signed with his ex? What if that's all it was?
Right.
So if you're assuming the worst, what is causing you to think the worst about your husband and automatically assume he's cheating?
Well, but he's with his ex-wife. So obviously that's something that, I think that at the best case scenario for this story is it was a foolish thing to do, because you're someplace with your ex-wife and in a city, miles from St. Louis. It doesn't look good.
Right.
So, I mean,
It does look shady.
it looks
I'm
very
trying to give him
shady.
the benefit of the doubt.
But I think that sometimes when that's a part of life that we don't, that is a true side of life that we don't like to touch upon, that sometimes in life, if you're involved in something and if knowing things are important to you, then there are certain things that you proactively
Right.
have to take in your own hands and do. Case in point, if you thought your daughter, I'm just saying daughter because I don't want anybody to think about we're talking about our son. Let's say you thought your daughter was in high school having an affair with her science teacher, right? Would you say, well, if it happened, it'll just come out,
I'll be trying to
it'll come
expose that.
right. You would look through the phones and do what you need to do to
Right.
proactively find out.
Right.
And sometimes in the faith, in the community of faith, we take this attitude
Right.
of, well, I'm just going to sit back and let God expose it,
Yeah.
let God do this, let God do that, which is fine with things that we don't know. But if we have suspicion or something has disturbed our peace about something, and we're not talking about going into someone else's, but she's not following her neighbor's husband. This is her husband. Then it's perfectly fine and reasonable, acceptable to say, listen, I have these suspicions. I want to find out whether or not these suspicions are true or not. And it's not like she's showing up at his job to see who he's eating lunch with unprovoked.
Right.
This is reasonable. He's with his ex-wife in a whole nother city. So I think it's reasonable for her to do that. Camille says, I feel like it was good for her to know if she was left wondering and always anxious and worried, that could cause more harm than him in a way. That's true. Tatiana says, I definitely believe knowing is necessary, and then you can decide what you want to do, whether you leave or stay. So, I'm challenging you two women, you two women of God in the church. I understand what you're saying, but I also think that as women of the gospel, women in the church, especially in your assignment as mentors and big sisters to women in the world, women in the church, it's important for you all to be able to instruct and let people know outside of your own situations. Dear sister, there may be a time where you may have to find out this. You may have to, tap his phones, hire a private detective. I'm just playing, but you may have to do things proactively to find out the state of your relationship. Has any of this changed your mind, First Lady? Or are you still where you are? Which is okay.
I see what you're saying.
Yours is okay, right?
I see what you're saying. I see, I see where you're coming from, and I see why it's important and why you're saying she needs to know.
I just wish she hadn't taken a city vehicle.
Right, absolutely.
Well, that sister probably found out day of, called him, oh, I'm such and such. She on the way. She couldn't even get her girls.
Right.
That's probably
She couldn't
true.
even rally with them. They was at work.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the only thing. She don't want them to know.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a blessing to have a relationship with someone you can trust.
Absolutely.
Let me
That's the root of it.
hammer that. It is
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
blessing
Right.
to be around trustworthy people. And I don't
I
just
agree,
simply
100.
mean romantic,
Right.
friendships, brothers, sisters.
Absolutely.
I had a conversation with someone. Let me ask your opinion on this. What is your biggest red flag to know that someone you're dealing with is untrustworthy? What's the biggest red flag that someone will give you that they should not be trusted, in your estimation?
Maybe dishonesty and lying. Just that they lie about little things. It's like, they're not telling the truth about that. If you would lie about that, what else might you be lying about or withholding information on? So
very good.
I think lying and being dishonest is a
Mine
red flag for me.
seem the same, but I would say a lack of accountability, like not honoring your word or being forthcoming. I think people that don't have anything to hide don't have any qualms with sharing what their plans are or what they plan to do.
Well, I'm talking about, let me push back on that because
Okay.
there may be times where I don't want you all up in my business. So,
Right, that's a good point.
right, I'm
Well-
not going to share with you all my
Well-
plans because I don't know who you are, right?
Sit down every
But
day
go
and
ahead.
run your
Right.
itinerary
Right.
down. But I mean, if I were just to ask a random question and you get all bent out of shape, what's all that about?
Right. Now, I feel you.
Yeah.
Just being accountable, I think, is the biggest, or lack of accountability will be the biggest red flag for me. I'm still thinking about it, but that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
comes to mind.
And those are both very wonderful answers. And I thought about it long and hard too. And I was sharing with somebody that the thing that red flag, believe it or not, for me and for other people that shows someone is not to be trusted is phoniness.
That's good and authentic.
Phony and inauthentic person. Because if you meet somebody or deal with somebody, you can sense when someone is not really being who
Genuine.
they are or putting
That's
on a
good,
show
yeah.
or performing in front of
Right,
you.
that's
You can.
good.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
You can.
You can tell when someone is playing a role or
Yeah.
this is a well-crafted version of themselves
good.
versus who they really are. And when people start putting on shows in front of you, then the question is, okay, why are you
Yeah.
putting on a show? What are you hiding? Because that speaks to a level of trickery that when people start putting on a show, it's like, you know what? Let me keep you at
Tap out.
arm's
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's somebody who, and I mean putting on a show, I mean someone whose emotions seem manipulated and manufactured.
Yeah.
You know, they're overly upbeat and happy at stuff that doesn't take all that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean from a personality standpoint. All right, First Lady,
I'm
go
a
ahead.
bee.
That's why I don't trust you. No, that's exactly my point. Yeah. where's my-
That could be somebody's personality to be a bee, you know.
Well, I don't mean your personality. I mean
Yeah.
when you ever met somebody and you know
It's a well-crafted act.
it's a well-crafted act. You
Yeah.
talk to them. You say, "Oh, you know, such. Oh, wow, wonderful! I've been waiting for you." You know, I mean, just it's like, you know, an actor, you know,
Yeah.
and sing. I mean, you know, and
Ba-da-da-boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, you know, because
Yeah.
the situation you're being over the top. It seems like you're playing me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always icky when you
yeah,
feel like
that's
you're
true.
being played. I don't mean tricked, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not trying to pull at your heartstrings, but they're like massaging your like emotional, I don't know the actual word,
Right.
but it's trying to don't look over here. Hey,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
That's
just slivering.
Inauthentic people
Yeah.
are really dangerous.
I
Very
agree
much
with
so.
that.
You can't connect with them with any depth. Yeah.
Speaking
Right.
of dangerous church people, the next article I want to get to is about a story that came out in, I think it's Cincinnati, but it's from about a Reverend R.A. Vernon. What did Pastor R.A. Vernon say? ? Word Church founder. I don't think that's his church. I think they just use that's like that's like
Catholic
cathedral,
church.
right?
That is like a
Yeah.
Catholic
That's just
church,
lazy art. That's not his church. It's a non-denominational church.
Okay.
Word Church founder issues an apology over controversial remarks during his sermon. Okay, I don't want to read the whole article. I basically want to share with you, and you all know more than I do because I didn't get a chance to read the whole article, and so I'm going to give the outline, and you all fill in the blanks. Basically, what happened is this is an ongoing event we're seeing in the news lately, where men of God, clergymen, women of God, are getting in trouble and through social media, through, you know, news, for saying things that are problematic. So this guy was preaching a sermon, and he was talking about rape in the sermon. Bless you, First Lady. And so he was saying basically in this sermon that you weren't raped, you chose him, something to that effect. Speaking to women, challenging their status as rape survivors, and suggesting that their sexual, their sexual history, their choosing someone, them being, I guess, I don't even know what he was trying to say, but the thing that got him in trouble was questioning whether or not a rape
validity.
victim was a rape victim, or and trying to insinuate that rape victims had something to do with that. Will you help me out a little bit?
Yeah, I want to go back and listen to the sermon, because one thing that I do know from the media, they will take a snippet and take it out of context. Although he did apologize.
He did apologize.
He did say that he could have chose
Right.
his words differently. So I think what he said and what he was trying to convey were two different things. It sounded like he was just trying to say, you know, you don't have to be a victim of what you've experienced, is what he was trying to say, but the way he went about saying it just did not convey well.
I think my read on it was he was trying to say, and this is such a, it's such a fine line to draw.
Absolutely.
What he was trying to say for me when I read the article is that it was Yes, Denise said, okay, that's it. Denise Battle said, was she complicit? Right. He's trying to suggest that in some of the things that people are calling rape, that the person who was raped or is saying this was rape was somehow complicit in this relationship. And you hear these things, and I'm just repeating the arguments
Right.
that you hear, mind you, is that you'll hear people say, well, if they weren't dressed that way, this
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Or, you went home with him, you went to his house or his apartment at 1 a.m. What did you think was going to happen? Or you were kissing him and it got
Is
hot
that
and
what
heavy.
he was trying to say? This is the stuff you're saying he was trying to
This
say.
is my take
Read
on
on
what he was trying to say. And so he was saying that, well, you're calling this thing rape. You're hurt or you are traumatized as a rape survivor. But what did you do in this situation?
like that at
right?
all.
And that's
Victim blaming.
right. And so my thing is that there has been the church and preachers and not just preachers. I'm not even put this on preachers. All of us in the church, we have to be very careful nowadays how we talk about issues and victimization and things like that, because I know that there is this hard line trend, and it goes back to the young lady who was made to stand up from the church, apologize for being pregnant.
Right.
That there's still this sentiment within the church that really wants to
Blame the woman.
blame the woman, blame the victim, make it to the point of being destructive
Right.
or losing credibility. Nowadays, as church folks, we have to be very careful the way we talk about these things so we don't come across as being out of touch,
Right.
brutish, Neanderthals,
Insensitive, yeah.
insensitive. So some of the, and it's part of that what I was talking about on Wednesday night, some of these old ways of talking about things. Back in the day, if a child was acting up in church, you could, as an adult in the church, smack their hand, whatever. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there are things that I don't think the church has gotten a memo on
Yeah.
that we have to change the way we deal with things, we talk about things, because people are looking at us crazy for some of the
Right.
stuff we're saying. But go ahead.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, so when I had looked at the article, he was saying after the fact that somebody sent him the snippet of it, and that's not what
The preacher was saying that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not what I meant. But he was saying what he was trying to do is bring his community, his faith community, to a place basically of overcoming things that they may have been subjected to. But he did say because it was in quotations, like you were basically, that was only allowed to happen because you allowed this person close to you or you gave this
Yeah,
person
that's not-
access to you. So back to what Lady Denise was saying, in a sense, you're complicit because if they weren't around you, then it wouldn't have happened. But that's not always the
Yeah,
case,
that's
because
not.
rape, sexual assault, it may be someone that's close to you, but it could be a perfect
A
stranger
random
as well.
stranger,
So then
exactly.
you don't have that same footing to say, oh, it's because you let your guard down. It's a
Right.
stranger. You're guarded with the stranger. You know what I mean? So it's different situations. And then he said, oh, I could have said that differently, or I could have worded that a different way. Like he's taking some degree of accountability for it, but it just makes me
still
think
something
about the
he's standing
teaching
by
that we're
what he-
getting as far as communication, because sometimes the damage is done and you can say sorry, but the damage has already been done. So people, were commenting after the story saying, what about the women in his church who were subject to that? They may be turned off, not just to
Right.
him, but to the idea of church altogether, because he has a church, and I don't know if it's a school or seminary. So it's all like man folk based. It seems more that way as opposed to actual church. So for somebody to use their platform to say things like that it's beyond misspeaking. It's just,
Yeah.
it's,
Is there a lack of love from Christian teaching nowadays? And here's what I mean by that. Does it seem that this desire to be right and to be moral and to be to hold people accountable is eroding or challenging our lack of love. Some of you mentioned last week, First Lady, that there seems to be a lot of mean-spirited communication within the church, not towards one another per se,
Right,
not towards the people in the
towards
family,
sinners.
but towards the world, towards sinners, towards people who are in relationships that are troubled,
Right.
whatever it may be. Do we have an issue with that?
I think we do. And I think, this man, this preacher, I think it's unfortunate, but a lot of men feel exactly the way he feels. There's been, if a woman is sexually assaulted or whatever, they always want to put the responsibility on the woman. What was she wearing? What was she this? What was she that? They victim blame a lot. So not just him, it's a common mindset, I think, in the church, but especially with men a lot of times. And there is a lack of compassion and a lack of love.
Well, you say men, but I think women are just
they can
as.
be worse sometimes with that mindset in terms of what was she wearing? Well, she wasn't wearing this, that wouldn't happen. I don't care if a woman walks down the street and if she is naked, you don't have any right to violate her.
That's true.
And for people to act like,
That's true.
because she's dressed that way, she deserves what she gets. That is a lack of compassion. Assault is assault is assault. And for him to even apply that, well, you trusted somebody, you let them get close to you, so it's your fault. That's what he is essentially putting out there. So I'm glad he did go back and correct it and apologize.
Yeah.
But I think that mindset is very common in the church.
And it's like nowadays. It reminds me of, before. I think that in churches in general, or we as Christians, we're used to saying things in house and not having them exposed to light of day,
Right.
where we can just say stuff and it's not scrutinized without understanding that the world we live in today, we have to be, and it's not, let me say this
Right.
too. It's not that we will never offend the world, because the
Absolutely,
gospel
yeah.
itself is
It's offensive,
Right.
absolutely.
Homosexuality is sinful. It
Right.
doesn't matter if that's offensive to someone, if someone thinks that's wrong, or it's not politically correct.
Right.
It's sinful.
Right.
There are
Right.
certain things that are going to offend people.
Right.
But when I talk about offending folks, we're offending people in ways and styles and things that we really
That are avoidable.
that are avoidable,
Right.
Having saying this, now Denise says, like Joseph and the woman who stalked him, you have to flee from those situations, which I believe is absolutely correct.
Women can't always flee from those situations.
Right. Well, I was going to say,
know?
but these are both of these teachings have to be taught, but they're two separate things.
Right.
Whereas, what he said, connecting it to rape, I think that's a problem, suggesting
Right,
that
absolutely.
this is the rape thing.
Right. Because if well,
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to go too deep.
Go ahead first. We get deep at HOD. Life.
we do.
You could flee from a situation. You can't. If you're a woman walking down the street and somebody grabs you into a van, you may or may not be able to flee and get out of that situation. If you're a woman who trusted somebody, this is somebody you were dating or whatever, you were dating this person and you've been with this person long enough to trust them, and if you get into a situation where you're like, okay, I don't want to go any further, if you say no and that person pursues you and makes you go further, what you're going to blame the woman for. It sounds like what Lady Denise is saying, and what he was saying is that you're putting the blame on this person for getting in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
I don't think that that's what is being said per se. I think that there still has to be a discussion with our daughters and our sons about what positions and how and what situations they place themselves in. I told the church not too long ago, ladies, if it's past, what time did I say?
10
10 o'clock. Why are you out on the streets?
Right.
Right.
We tell our son, and although he's a man, avoid certain situations because you don't want the
absolutely.
allegations
Right.
of rape.
Right.
And so there has to be that discussion to men and to women that tell them, look, you have to be able to keep your distance from X, Y, and Z, from out of a sense of safety, because there are some messed up people
Yes,
in the
there are.
world and in the church.
Absolutely.
I told somebody, I said, listen, I don't meet in the church or anywhere for that matter. I don't meet with kids one-on-one. You'll never see me and a minor by ourselves anywhere. If there's a minor, then the parent is nearby. If there's a minor, then someone is there, because I'm not going to put myself in a situation where somebody's going to jump out and say, ooh, Pastor Battle was with this minor. I say that the devil is a lie. You know, I was not with a minor. You're not going to catch me with a minor, you know, because I understand the time and day we're living in. And well, you know, counseling, what if you have to counsel what if somebody, fine. If I'm going to counsel somebody, a minor, then their parent or a deacon or someone's going to be nearby. Why? Because I'm not going to let the church be destroyed because my lack of wisdom and awareness of the day and age we're living in.
Absolutely.
That's my own personal thing. I tell people all the time, look, I don't care who it is. You call them your you know, Boo Boo and Pookie and them and all that stuff. Don't let kids come to your home. And they're there for you. You know, if they're a minor, it's one thing if you have kids and they're there for their kids, but don't let kids come to your home. Don't pick kids up and take them out, and they're not your blood relatives, because it's too dangerous nowadays.
It's risky business,
especially if you are a person of the cloth, because the devil is coming for you. If he can't get you with fact, he's going to get you with fiction.
That's true.
And it's not to say that one day the devil's not going to say, oh, I saw Pastor Battle in Jeff City with his ex-wife. And he could make something up, but I'm not going to make it easy for him.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to make it easy for him. So it's just some stuff. We got to do things differently in church and things, because we already know the devil's coming with all this sexual, sinful stuff.
Yes, he is.
When First Lady Denise said, discernment is a loss. Many saints are not operating without discernment. That's true. But I think what's happening with him is that they are what our teaching in the church and our ministry has to be large enough. This is a point that many ministers and preachers don't understand. To encompass not only people of the faith, but outside the faith. So, in other words, I can tell you, Courtney, look, you know, if you end up one day, you call me from White Castle saying, Pastor, come get me. This dude just ran off with my car, my burgers, my
what did he run off with?
Your car,
burgers,
your hamburgers. You know, snatch my purse, my pocketbook, and everything like that.
You getting me from White Castles and not the jail cell?
White Castles, right? White Castles.
Give me my burgers.
White Castles. Then I can say to you, Courtney, why in the world, you know, did you go out with White Castle with LaTravion? I mean, you just met him online.
Trey
right.
assured me he was
What were you doing at White Castle with LaTravion? You just met him. Or how about this? Why did you and Steven, why did...
Oh, you tried it, Pastor.
I did. Why would you and Steven? What? So I can say that to you because you're a woman in the church, woman of faith.
Yes, sir.
But if you have someone who's not in the faith, who's in a member of the church and doesn't have that, then you can't exercise it unless you don't have Holy Ghost discernment, or and some kids nowadays don't even were brought up in wisdom. So it's one of them things that they just don't have.
Yeah. One of the things that you said that I thought was really good is the gospel itself, it offends. And the Bible tells us that. But the Bible also tells us not to offend. But I think a lot of times what we do in the church is we hide behind the Bible when we've done something ugly. We're just offending people, and we are going to be dealt with because the Bible tells us not to do that. If the word itself offends, that stands on its own.
Right.
But if you are actively offending somebody, and it's because of the sensitivities or the likes that we have, oh, I don't like this sin, and I don't like, well, we shouldn't like any sin, but we shouldn't
I
be
see what you're saying.
intentively
Right.
trying to cut and hurt people that are in that sin, because
Right,
it may
right.
not be the web we were tied up in, but we were tied up in one too. So we're not
Absolutely.
to offend. Just preach the word and let the word be that, but then also live according to the word. There are boundaries for us, and then there are liberties that we have. But I think we're too liberal with things that we should not be liberal with, and offending other people is one of those.
I heard someone say we're, as a church, is typically we're too hard on sinners and too easy on saints.
Yes,
And
that's
that
good.
categorizes our preaching. In other words, when it comes to us, we give passes, we let things go. You know, we make things, oh, that's, you know, we sweep things on the rug. But on sinners, we want to really go in hard on them. But in the Gospels, Jesus was the exact opposite of that. He was easier on sinners and
Right.
harder on saints, which makes sense because
Yeah,
to whom much is given.
much
Look at
is
us on the same page. Look at us. Same page. We done synchronize. Uh-oh. So, you know, Jesus was the exact opposite, where we in the church, we are really hard on people outside of the church. And I think that's one of the reasons why, and it doesn't excuse it, but
Right.
people nowadays, you know, they have really, some of them have washed their hands of the church because they kind of peep that out, and that is what it is. What do you think, First Lady?
I agree.
I was trying to remember the scripture exactly, but Jesus was talking to the religious leaders, and he was telling them, yeah, y'all know the law and all of that, but your heart is horrible. And what you're doing is you're trying to make these people live by the letter of the law, and you're making them worse demons or whitewashed
Right.
whatever than you are.
Right.
Because you know what the law says, but it's not penetrated your heart.
Right.
It's not changed your character. You don't have no integrity. So we're just cleaned up outside trash vessels. That's
Yeah.
what Jesus was
Right.
saying
That's
to
what he
the
was
religious
basically
leaders,
saying.
Right.
and telling us not to do that.
Right. And we have to really check. And I know this because I'm the main subject of this. But, you know, how we started and once were in terms of our level of enmity towards people of the world. And
Right.
and another scripture I was going to bring up when I solicited the congregation for questions in terms of with his teaching about engaging sinners.
Yes.
And I did mention the verse about, you know, friendship. What is it? Do
Light
not
and
be
darkness.
unequally yoked.
Yoked.
Another
I
scripture
believe
says, man, it just slipped my mind so quickly. But oh gee whiz, I forget. But there's a couple of them come out from among them. Do not let your good be evil spoken of. Things like
Good
that.
Manners corrupt. what is it?
Evil
Bad
communication.
Right.
corrupts
Good manners.
But none of these verses are dealing with our ability to engage and interact with sinners. And so as a church body, as Christians, the deprogramming that now is required for us to flip the switch from seeing sinners as our enemy or as a threat versus seeing them as the prize or as what we're
Yes.
going after is a completely different paradigm shift.
Yes, it is. But it is
but
necessary.
It is biblical, though.
Absolutely.
It is the apostles' doctrine.
Yes.
They went after the lost. Jesus went after the lost. And it's, it's a crazy thing when you think about the actual biblical message being strange or people finding it a little off-putting because it's different from what we've been taught or what we've always
What we've been
thought,
doing,
what
yeah.
we've been doing. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think to agree, and this is maybe a little bit too far, but in a somewhat of a way, we've been taught to really, the more repulsed you were of sinners and are of sinners, then
the holier you were,
it speaks
the
to
more
your own
sanctified
level
you
of or even to the, I can't understand, why they do that or why they act like that, and just kind of the sense of repulsion. That's not, nowhere in the Bible do you see Christ be repulsed
Right.
by
Nothing.
people who were the multitude who were following him.
Right,
Right.
right.
So it's something that I pray and we all pray that God would turn us and change us because, we do need to be changed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
I want to end on a health note. How many of y'all have had chest pains in this room?
Like ever?
Ever?
Yes.
Rita has chest pains. You have chest pains? You have
I've
chest
had
pains.
them.
So a lot of people think chest pains are a what?
Heart
Attack.
issue.
9 causes of chest pains that aren't heart attacks. And I ran across this, especially for our dear sisters who, sometimes they are quick to hop on WebMD or to think that they're having a heart attack.
Self-diagnosis.
There's other reasons you could be having chest pain. They need to be addressed, but it's not just heart attack. Okay.
Heartburn, is that one?
Well, let me get to these 7 first, lady. First one is a pulled muscle in the chest.
Oh, yeah.
Someone can mistake a strained chest muscle for something more serious, like a heart attack. Cardiologists at the Cleveland Clinic told Health, when you've been exercising.
Yeah.
First ladies just started bench pressing.
No, I have. I have. He plays.
So, yeah. But strained pulled. I was telling Andre, who's helping with the snow, that on Monday I said this is heart attack snow because it is heavy snow, and there are people who have tried to shovel snow
And
had
have
a heart
had
attack. Right.
attacks, yes.
Okay, so it could be a pulled muscle in the chest. Number 2, angina. I have no idea what angina is.
Angina, that's chest.
And that was angina.
That's angina.
I thought it was angina.
People
I
pronounce it
thought
either
that's
way.
how you pronounce
What?
it.
Angina,
too.
right?
Angina.
Comment who's right in the comments to your first lady. Angina, or ischemic chest pain, is a type of chest pain. Whenever I start talking hell, she got it. You know how that goes.
She's just pulling from her
Right.
wealth of knowledge that she got.
It's a type of chest pain that may feel like pressure or squeezing, typically when you physically exert yourself or watch this, are emotionally stressed. It happens if there is a lack of blood supply and oxygen to your heart muscle. Angina pain is the same type of pain you can feel during a heart attack. While not all angina is a heart attack, it is still a potential emergency, and you should seek medical attention immediately. So angina. Number 3, heartburn. Occasional acid reflux is relatively common and probably nothing to worry about. However, if you have reflux more than once a week, you may have gastroepiphysis.
Esophageal.
No,
Esophageal.
Reflux disease, GERD. Acid reflux can be hard to distinguish from heart attack, so you should seek a health care. You got to stop eating all that spicy food too. Pericarditis. Pericarditis is inflammation of the pericardium, or the tissue layers surrounding your heart. Sharp stabbing pains on the left or front part of the chest is one of the most common pericarditis symptoms. Pain may occur in the abdomen, back, neck, or shoulders. Pain may be more intense while breathing deeply, coughing, lying down, or swallowing. In contrast, pain may improve with leaning forward while sitting up. Okay. Next, there is pleuritic chest pain. Pleuritic chest pain is an inflammation of the pleura, whatever that is, or the lining of your lungs, okay? You may feel sudden burning, sharp, or stabbing chest pains while breathing deeply. Sound like that? An infection like pneumonia may cause pleuritic chest pains. Typically, chest pain from pneumonia occurs when you breathe or cough. Is that what you have, Rita? No, sir. Okay. Pulmonary embolism is one of the most severe causes of pleuritic chest pains. A pulmonary embolism occurs when something blocks a lung artery. Now, that is dangerous. That blockage it can kill you. Can damage the lungs and cause low oxygen levels in your body, damage other organs. A pulmonary embolism can be life-threatening if untreated. I once had this, I didn't have them, but there was a hospice patient that I was a chaplain for. When he passed away, he had a pulmonary embolism. Wow. He passed away. It was like all the blood in his body leaked out. I mean, it was just it was so much blood that came out of him. Because the artery burst. It just leaked out. It's crazy. Shingles. The virus that causes chicken pox lays dormant. I didn't know that. Listen, the virus that causes chicken pox lays dormant in your nerve cells long after the spots have faded. And no idea. Right. Shingles happens when the varicella zoster virus, VZV, that causes chickenpox reactivates, usually in people older than 50. You don't have to worry about that yet. Later, I mean, first. Some of the first symptoms of shingles include pain, itching, or tingling. Typically, a rash appears day later following blister. Her shingles is very painful.
I heard
Yeah.
that.
If shingles affects your chest area before a rash appears, you might mistake early pain for a heart attack. An interventional cardiologist at Houston Memorial Hospital. See a healthcare provider right away if you develop shingles. Antiviral medicine helps shorten the length of your symptoms if you take it within 72 hours of rash appearing. Costochondritis, whatever that is. Costochondritis is an inflammation of the tissues connecting your ribs to your breastbone.
Wow.
Typically, a costochondritis causes you to feel pressure on your chest wall. You may feel tenderness when pressing on the area like a strained muscle, right? Costochondritis is a common harmless cause of chest wall pain. Still seeing a healthcare provider is a good idea. Finally, pancreatitis. Acute pancreatitis is a sudden inflammation of the pancreas, which is located just behind the stomach. Most commonly, pancreatitis causes intense abdominal pain that can radiate up to the chest. Pancreatitis often occurs when gallstones or hard pebble-like pieces of hardened cholesterol, high cholesterol.
High, not low.
In other words, when you have a diet, see, she coughing already.
That's your
When you
discernment
right,
working
that's
fast.
it. When you have let me when you have a diet of high, I'm not gonna name any names.
Yeah, don't do that.
But there's some people in this room that have very high cholesterol
Or
and didn't
person.
understand the bad things that high cholesterol can do. What foods are high in cholesterol? Somebody tell me.
Fried chicken.
Fried foods,
chicken.
processed
Butter,
foods,
sauce.
butter,
Sauce.
salt, hot sauce.
Crystals, yes.
Hot sauce
Yes.
is high in cholesterol. You just throwing it in there because
I threw
I
that
don't
with
know,
the
yeah.
fried chicken. When you put it on
Yeah.
the fried
I don't think
chicken.
hot sauce is high in cholesterol.
Crystals, Louisiana.
Fried stuff, fatty
Bacon,
stuff,
butter, that's
all the stuff that you love.
Yeah.
So basically, high cholesterol food can cause gallstones, can
heard
mess
that's
up your
painful.
pancreas, hard pebble-like piece of heart. So basically, what happens is that church's chicken you eat gets in your body and gets even harder if you can imagine that.
Yeah.
It's already hard when
it's
you eat it.
already, yeah.
But then it gets to be like stones. Sets off your what is it? Pancreas. Pancreas flips out. It gets mad and sends pain all through your body. Then you end up in urgent care talking about pray for me. I'm having a heart attack, and you don't need prayer. You just need to stop going to churches.
Definitely
All right.
need to stop going
Now
to
check
church.
this out. Women are more likely to have pancreatitis than men. The article goes on to say men being the master sex, being more.
I don't
No,
think
Okay,
the
I'm
article
sorry.
said that.
Okay,
Pastor,
maybe
where
that
you
was me.
read?
Maybe I'm
Where
sorry.
You read?
I got lost.
Okay.
The line between fact and fiction began to blur for a second. If you have pancreatitis symptoms, seek immediate medical attention. To diagnose pancreatitis, a healthcare provider may order blood work and other tests such as an abdominal ultrasound or CT scan. You will likely have to stay in the hospital for antibiotics, IV fluids, pain medicine for a few days.
That's serious.
It's painful.
That's serious.
That's what I'm told.
That's serious. Everything that tastes good, say
It's
it with
not
me,
good
is
for
not
you.
good. Gigi,
That's right.
Gigi said those White Castles will give you heartburn. They will, Gigi.
That sure is if them don't do the
Final
mornings
thing
right.
you can confuse for a heart attack is a panic attack.
Oh.
Panic attack is intense anxiety due to your body's fight or flight response kicking in. Panic attack can feel like a heart attack. In addition to chest pain, a panic attack may cause symptoms like dizziness, feeling of going crazy or like you are dying, nausea, pounding heart, shaking, sweating. Some people had family history of panic attacks. Generally, people experience panic attacks suddenly without knowing. Now, speaking of these goals, I remember my father had he had a what do you call that? A stone, kidney stone. It was very painful. I remember they had, and he literally thought he was dying.
Oof.
Yeah, I
He
heard they're
literally
really
thought he was
painful.
dying.
Yeah.
He called me to the bedside, and he thought, he was giving his final goodbyes. You know, he thought he was dying, but it was a
Stone.
stone. And you know, I don't know what prevents it. I've heard drinking more water and less carbonated stuff can stop kidney
okay.
stones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but very painful thing. Gallstones. Taking care of your body,
Yes.
right? Taking care of your body.
Man.
Well, I hope you all have had a wonderful time here at HOD Live. Go to White
Always
Castles.
do.
Amen.
Go to
We
White
always have
Castle.
a good time.
Enjoy
No, we don't
yourselves.
do it.
Have a
Yeah.
wonderful weekend. We will see you next weekend. Say
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's right.